रूपं श्रुतिज्ञं सदा कार्यसक्तं हृदा चिन्त्यरूपं जगत्कारणं सर्वविद्यानिदानं परब्रह्मरूपं गणेशं नता स्म। अजं निर्विकल्पं निराकारमेकं निरानन्दमानन्दमद्वैतपूर्णं परं निर्गुणं निर्विशेषं निरीहं परब्रह्मरूपं गणेशं भजेम।
सदा सत्ययोग्यं मुदा क्रीडमानं सुरारीन् हरन्तं जगत्पालयन्तम् अनेकावतारं निजाज्ञानहारं सदा विश्वरूपं गणेशं नमामः। तमो योगिनं रुद्ररूपं नेत्रं जगद्धारं।
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We welcome you all for our today's session on It All Begins With You, to my family, love and respect. Let's start our session with invocation by Chinmayan. Chinmayan.
Atma Ramananda Ramana, Atma Ramananda Ramana, Achyuta Keshava Hari Narayana, Achyuta Keshava Hari Narayana, Bhava Bhaya Harana Vandita Sharana, Bhavabhaya Harana Vandita Sharana, Raghukula Bhushana Rajiva Lochana, Raghukula Bhushana Rajiva Lochana, Adi Narayana Ananta Shayana, Adi Narayana Ananta Shayana, Sachidananda Shri Satyanarayana, Sachidananda Shri Satyanarayana, Atma Ramananda Ramana, Atma Ramananda Ramana, Ananda Ramana, Ananda Ramana.
Chant the name of Rama, the giver of happiness, who lives in our heart. Worship the lotus feet of Lord Narayana, Achyuta, Keshava, who destroys the fear of the cycle of birth and death. Pray Lord Narayana, Satyanarayani, who is the embodiment of truth and bliss. We have our beloved Swamiji, Swami Mitranandji, to provide the opening remarks to start the session. Swamiji.
Yeah. Samasta Janakalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahmavitvaram. My salutations to everybody, and my apologize for not being there yesterday. Yesterday, I was in a place called Chinmaya Tarangani, very close to the seashore. Generally, the signals are okay, but I think yesterday there was some issue where the network had some problem and just could not connect. Though I tried even the audio mode and all that, nothing worked. So my apologies for not being there yesterday. And yesterday's topic was sister. As you know, we brought out 14 titled book. 14 titles are there of different relationships we have. And yesterday we heard about, and the book reading was on the sister. This is one relationship, personally to me, was the longest relationship I ever had. I had an elder sister who just came 2 years before me, and I could be with her till 50 years. Then she moved on. So if I see any relationship, it was the relationship with the sister, which is the longest. The mother was short, father was longer, guru was there 20 years, so that way. But with the sister, it was 50 years, and it is a very special relationship where you wholeheartedly share. And to me, she was elder, so she was a guide. And personally, I owe too many things to her, because she's the one who took me back to Gurudev. I was there in Bal Vihar, but then I disconnected as a teenager. She's the one who took me back to Gurudev, and she's the one who inspired me on India. And these two are my passion. So I thought of sharing this yesterday, but because of the network, we could not. And today the topic is husband. And we have Radha and Anand talking about it. Over to Sundar. I would come back in the end to take the Q&A, what was there yesterday as well as today. So let's go back to the book reading. Sundar.
Thank you, Swamiji. So today we have two wonderful speakers, Srimati Radha Narayanan and Sri Anand Sheshadri. Radha is a Yuvavir, entrepreneur and founder at Gurukul. She takes the ancient Indic wisdom to the kids in a very fun way. She contributes actively to Chinmaya Mission projects, and she takes lead in the Shishu Vihar initiative of Chinmaya Mission Chennai. And our second speaker today is Anant. Anant is an MBA and works with TVS Supply Chain Systems, Chennai. He is a proud and practicing Hindu who believes in contributing maximum for the cause of Hinduism and Bharat. Over to you, Radha and Anant.
Thank you.
Radha, you can unmute yourself. Yeah.
Hari Om, thank you. Anant will speak first and then I'll take over.
Thank you. Hari Om, everyone. I'm just going to quickly share my screen, and please do let me know if it's there, and we will start from there.
Yes, Anant, we are able to see your screen. If you can go on to the presentation. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Hari Om, everyone. So we have a very interesting topic here. To my husband, with love and respect. Dear husband, I made a promise to you to be by your side at all times, and I abide by that. Your love and support mean the world to me. I'm thankful to have you in my life. With love and respect. So this made us think about what is the purpose of marriage from the Hindu viewpoint. Is it something just ritualistic, or is it something a lot more than that? So let us try and explore in this session as Radha and myself take you through this journey. So we all hear this term Grihastha-ashrama, right? Grihastha-ashrama is when people enter into the phase of wedlock, as it is more recently known. But Grihastha-ashrama is also called as Grihamedam. Now, why do I introduce another word called Grihamedam is because Medam or Yajna, right? Medam or Yajna is also teamwork done with cooperation, with the idea of selflessness. And it is about doing activities together to achieve one of the highest goals. Now that is what Grihastha-ashrama means. In fact, if we were to look at the purpose of marriage as given by our scriptures, the ideals that have been presented before us are indeed very lofty. And these are some things that we need to strive for when we enter this beautiful ashrama in our life. And it is very, very interesting to notice here that the Srimad Bhagavatam actually gives us some very, very beautiful declarations about this wonderful ashrama. In fact, they take this ashrama as the first ashrama because they feel that this is the pillar on which all the others are built on, something which the other three pillars can lean on. And that is the responsibility that this ashrama brings in, and as a consequence of which places a sense of responsibility, or rather sense of responsibilities, on the husband and the wife in the relationship. And I'm just going to pick a simple declaration that the Srimad Bhagavatam gives to give you the idea of this importance. The Srimad Bhagavatam says, Garhastyam cha maha ashramam. In fact, there are a lot of people who make a pun on it, saying it's mahashramam, right? That is, it's a lot of work, but they actually declare, saying that it is a divine place for great and endless work. And if we look at vivaha, the root word of vivaha is va, one of the meanings of which means to hold a responsibility to carry through the stream of life. That is vivaha for us. So that is the level of importance placed on this wonderful ashrama, and the sense of purpose with which we should enter this ashrama has been very wonderfully outlined by this beautiful wealth of knowledge presented by Sanatana Dharma. And we pick up some of the 4 key points that our scriptures mention on this purpose, which is to practice dharma, uplift ourselves spiritually, sustain future generations, and cultivate selfless and pure love, which will lead us to the final goal. And that is the sense of responsibility that is placed upon anybody entering this wonderful ashrama. So I'm just going to start taking you through this lovely journey while we actually go through the vivaha procedure. I'm not going to go into every detail, but I think this lays the foundation. A lot of us look at this as a social event, but a vivaha or a marriage is something that has a lot of wonderful things embedded into the actual ritual. And let us go through each of this. So we have all heard of the term Saptapadi or the Saat Feras. And let us go through each one of them to see the kind and depth to which we actually have prescribed for the people who enter into this lovely relationship. So the first promise, with this step, I pledge to be your friend, your guide, and your equal partner. Together we shall share the responsibilities of life and family. There you remain, I shall be. Take this first step with me, my beloved, so that we may begin our journey together. I pray for food that nourishes us. So that's the first step. The second step, at all times, I shall be your courage and your strength. When you are unhappy, I will not be satisfied. All your sorrow I shall share, and in your happiness I shall rejoice. Take the second step with me so that we may love each other and each other alone. I'm sure we are going to be hearing more about this as we proceed. Promise 3. With this third step, I seek God's blessings in our lives. May we have noble children, and may God bless them with knowledge, long life, and prosperity. And I also pray for the health of our cattle. We will be actually looking a little more into this as we go on in this session. Promise 4. In all acts of dharma and an artha, in every act divine and material, I shall be with you. I promise this, taking the fourth step. The fifth step, with this fifth step, I pledge to love you and you alone. My devotion to you is and will remain pure. You will be my only joy. I pray for a comfortable life. Let us think about the stories that we learn about in our Puranas, in our Itihasas, about the Maryada Purushottam. And let us see how all these 7 steps actually enunciate each and every beautiful character to be possessed by the couple entering into this vivaha. Promise 6. With this 6th step, by the law of God and the Holy Scriptures, I am ready to take the final step with you. My promises have been spoken with the truest heart. The oceans and the gods are witness to my words. Never shall I deceive you, and forever shall I love you. I promise this with the 6th step. I also pray for a life that survives the seasons. I really don't know why people don't consider such a beautiful wedding ritual as not being camera friendly or lacking in a lot of emotions. I think this is a beautiful function. This is a beautiful ritual in our Sanatana Dharma that we should learn about so that we make it more meaningful. And of course, promise number 7. As we take the 7th step, our love and lives shall become separable. We shall be one in the eyes of humans and God. I offer my complete self to you, and you shall be completely mine. I pray for help in fulfilling religious duties. Now, that is very, very important for us as we enter the final step, so that we commit. Having gone through the 7 steps that have been beautifully outlined, please note that each and every step that you see on here is something that we promise and take forward in not just this life, but the lives ahead. So let us see what the book talks about in terms of each of these 7 steps that we are seeing here. So the first story that we have here is a beautiful story, a sacrifice for love. The way in which we have structured this is wherein we read the story and reflect on how it can actually be helping us today, and how is it that we need to be proceeding in our lives further. Ruru was the son of Pramati and the grandson of sage Brigu. Once, while out in the forest with his friends, he reached the hermitage of Sthulakesha and asked for water. Sthulakesha's daughter Pramadvara brought some water to the thirsty men, where Ruru met her and fell in love with her. He reached home to inform his parents and to seek Pramadvara's hand in marriage. Both Sthulakesha and Pramati agreed, and the couple were engaged to be married. They were besotted in love and couldn't wait for their special day. On the morning of the day of their wedding, Pramadvara was bitten by a snake and was poisoned to death. Unable to bear the grief, Ruru lamented to the heavens, "Why don't my eyes turn blind to see my love lying dead? What would I not do to bring her back?" A divine voice replied that Pramadvara could be brought alive if Ruru pledged half his life to her. "I would even give up my whole life if it brought back Pramadvara alive. Take what you may." Saying so, Ruru gave up half his life, and Pramadvara was enlivened again. The couple were soon married. Ruru's strength of love stood even the test of death. What a beautiful story. Now, there are a lot of things that we can take away from this. And now, one can always argue on the various aspects that we are seeing in the story, but let us see some things that are so very evident. Now, about giving life, what does it really mean? How do we actually bring it and see how it can help us in today's life? Do we spend quality time with our partner, right? So we are always asked by the ever-present Facebook as to what's on our mind. So at this point in time, something that's on my mind is, do we spend quality time with our partner? Because Ruru giving up his life, or rather half his life, really means about him spending time. It's about time here, right? So do we spend quality time with our partner? At this point, let us contemplate on that and invite Radha to take over from here.
Thank you. Hope you can hear me. Yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
We can.
Yes. So what's on our mind? Especially what's on our partner's mind? So difficult, right, to judge. Especially all the husbands out here who are listening to this talk right now. Can you guess what's on your wife's mind? Yes, Anand, can you guess? Yeah, right. So it's a difficult question. Why is that so? Let us just go through some very comic memes. So when it comes to sharing dessert, the last piece remains there. And what's running on your mind? We will think the expectation is each one feeding each other half a spoon. But what is the reality? Who is getting the last bite, right? So what is in it for me? Runs in our minds. Some comic lines for you to lighten up. That's it. So another comic line. Wow, do you want to hold hands when a wife is extending her hand? And then she says, no, please pass on the chips. I put my hand out for that. Right. So we usually think, I know my wife, or rather, we are afraid to say even that, right? Many times. So we are able to express a lot to each other, say through an emoji, through WhatsApp. But when it comes to face discussions, how many quality conversations do we have? How much do we talk to each other about each other or about each other's views on things? Even be it a debate, we should kind of have a debate and then come together, right? But do we do all of that? Do we even know these days how to talk to each other? Those days, if you see husband and wife, they will talk even just with their eye. So the father and mother probably, the father just has to look there and the mother knows what the father wants. And she comes bringing that, or somehow they know, they just have a wavelength that just catches each other, right? So do we miss that or do we have that? It's a question we have to ask each other. How do we gain that? Spending quality time with each other. Let's say one of the ways we spend time with each other these days is, catching a movie on Netflix or watching series on Netflix or Prime or anything else on online mediums, especially with the lockdown now. Most of us would have been more regular with this particular hobby. But even while watching, do we know whether the other person really likes what we are watching together, or do they really like what I'm deciding to watch? Do we ask each other's preferences? Maybe not. This is a question we have to ask ourselves. Again, this is a very common activity, right? Wherever we go, we take a selfie because it's very important whether we spend time with each other or not. We have to tell the world that we have spent time with each other. And all of you must be agreeing who are on social media that any picture couple shoots get maximum number of likes on social media pages, right? So even while taking a selfie, what's on each other's mind? Is it, I love spending time with you, so let us freeze this moment with a selfie? Or is it like, I want more likes this time, let me see you or me who gets more likes? So what is running on our mind? So even understand what's running on somebody else's mind, what's the first step? Of course, in Satya Yuga and all, they could understand each other. There were people who were completely in sync with each other. Unfortunately, in Kali Yuga, we have to use our words and ask each other. So what do you feel? What do you like? What's running in your mind? To have these conversations is one of the things where we said one of the first promises, being a friend to each other. What's coming with that promise is spending time with each other. So Ruru was ready to give half his time, his entire life, over to his wife. But here, even when we are physically present in the same space, are we fully giving our time to each other? Maybe, maybe not. So we should think about it. Here we go to the next story. A saintly match for a divine son. Sage Kardama lived in the Satya Yuga by the banks of river Saraswati. He used to perform severe austerities, and Sri Vishnu blessed him by pronouncing that he would be born as Kardama's child. At the same time, Swayambhu Manu, the king, came looking in the ashram seeking Kardama's hand in marriage for his daughter Devahuti. The auspicious wedding took place Kardama was so pious and severe in his austerities that even Devahuti followed all the rituals perfectly patiently. Kardama informed her of his wish to beget self-realization. However, when Devahuti reminded him of his role as a householder, he agreed to bear children with her. The couple bore 8 daughters who went on to marry sages as a part of their divine prophecy made by Sri Vishnu. The 9th child was the son Kapila, who was God manifest. After having performed his duties as a householder, he advised his wife to get spiritual wisdom from their son Kapila. Having said this, Kardama left to the forest to meditate and realize the self. Kapila gave a discourse to his mother on the highest truths of philosophy. Kardama as a husband, not only fulfilled his duties as a householder, but also a catalyst in the spiritual evolution of his wife. So what do we take away from the story? Because this happened in the Satya Yuga. So yes, all this was true, but what now? Did you, can you connect to the previous line? Even though Kardama, now let's analyze the characteristics of Kardama and Devahuti. Sage Kardama was born from Lord Brahma himself. Okay, his sole purpose was to realize. Okay, and he knew by a divine prophecy that Devahuti is going to marry him. But Devahuti was born and brought up by Swayam, born as a princess and brought up in a big, huge palace with all luxuries by Swayambhu Manu. And now she is married to a sage. And she is now taking care of him, taking all the rituals, doing everything perfectly. So now Kardama could have just moved on. But he asked his wife, what would you like? What is it that you feel? So he comes down and asks her, saying, what is it that you like? And that is when Devahuti says, I want 9 sons, daughters, children, basically. I want 9 children who can take the next generation, who can take all this forward. Okay. And it is a husband's asks Devahuti. Devahuti says a few things, and Kardama creates like huge things for Devahuti. Like Kardama creates an a flying palace, a beautiful flying palace for Devahuti, and they live in that. And he asks her to go and take a dip in a particular holy river, and when she takes a dip, she becomes young and beautiful again, because over the ages she's been serving the rishi and she's been living a forest life. So she grew very thin, her skin faded, everything went away, but he gave back the divine beauty back to her. And she asked for all this, and finally when he fulfilled all the wishes of his wife, he's saying, okay, I have to go away now, I have to take up sannyas. And that time she's saying, I asked for sons, I asked for daughters, this, but I forgot to ask for liberation. What will happen if you go away? Now you are going to get liberation. What happens to me? And that is when Kardama says, the 9th child, the son who is going to be born to us, he will give you that liberation. So end to end, everything he took care of his wife. Be it the enjoyment factor. In fact, it is told that they lived for 100 years, a married life for 100 years. Okay, since they met each other, 100 years of married life. So imagine a sage who doesn't have to do all of this, but he does it because a husband's duty is to fulfill a wife's desire and to even ask. These days we think, oh, I know what she wants for her birthday. I know where she wants to go out. I know she likes this. I might know, I might not know. Or, I will give her something and she'll smile for it. That's her, it's her choice to smile. But as a husband, it is our duty to ask. It's just words, right? But words become priceless at times, right? So that is what we see from this story. And going on, there is one more story from our Itihasa that all of you must be knowing. Be it any version of the Ramayana, be it Valmiki Ramayana, Kamba Ramayana, this is an incident we cannot forget. right? There are 14 years that Rama, Lakshmana and Sita go to the forest. And on the 14th year, finally, they have lived forest life. And Sita, mind you, Sita is from a royal background. Though she is born from the earth, she's been kept in a very sophisticated lifestyle that when she has to go to the forest, everybody stops her in Ayodhya. Even Dasharatha says, please don't go. You have a choice of going back to King Janaka. Stay with your father. You can come back when Rama comes back. But she says, no, I have to go. And Rama tries to convince her, saying, you know, there will be wild animals, there will be this, there will be that. For everything, Sita has an excuse saying, no, no, I'm coming with you. Okay. And he decides to take her finally. And when they go to the forest, 13 years, no complaining, nothing. She took care of Rama and Lakshmana, giving them food, everything. Finally, on the 13th, 14th year, finally it's going to get over. And that is the time she sees a beautiful deer and she wants it. So she asks Rama for the very first time, saying, oh my lord, can I please have that deer? Imagine a wife is asking her husband nothing and putting up with everything for so many years. And finally she's saying, that deer. You know, it's like many husbands try to give costly gifts to their wives, this, that. And finally the wife says, can I get one rose? You know, how does it feel to satisfy that desire for that rose? Then and there. So it feels so fulfilling, right? So Rama also wanted to give her what she wanted. He was ready to chase the deer. That time Lakshmana speaks logic. He says, no, no, look at that deer. It is golden in color. It is having rubies. It is studded with diamonds. Can a deer be like this? It cannot be a deer. Probably it's a monster. He's come to trick us. He's going to take you away. So many things Lakshmana says. And it's all logical. It's all fact. But still, does Rama not know all of that? Rama's Lord himself. Doesn't he know all of that? Still, the reply he gives Lakshmana is beautiful. He says, oh Lakshmana, so many years she's been with us. She's serving us. She is a queen, but she chose to follow us. Now, there is one thing she asks us in this many years. Can't we give her that? If we can't give her even that, then what is the use of me being a husband to her? I feel this is a desire of hers I have to give. Lord himself. Okay. So he goes behind the deer to satisfy Sita's desire. And everything happened, but imagine a husband going to any length to getting what a wife desires. This has happened even with our gods. Who are we, right? So it's important for a husband to know what's on your wife's mind. For that, we have to spend quality time with each other. Then comes couple goals. Right? There are so many couple goals. These days, that's a very trending word. In Instagram, you put hashtag couple goals and you will see all sorts of things, right? So now we're going to see the story of a couple whose goal was the highest, one of the highest. Okay. So here we go. Man and wife on a mission. Jyotirao Phule was an Indian social activist, reformer, and writer from Maharashtra. He worked extensively to eradicate untouchability, caste, and gender discrimination, and to promote literacy amongst the underprivileged. In 1831, when Jyotirao was aged 12, he was married to Savitri, aged 9. Jyotirao's experiences coming from a poor family and being withdrawn from school on the grounds of him being from a lower caste deeply affected him. However, with the help of a few friends and mentors, he completed his education and also aided in teaching Savitri to read and write. In 1848, Jyotirao started the first school completely dedicated to girls' education. He made his wife Savitribai the first teacher in the school. Teachers' Day must be celebrated after her. The couple were ostracized by their families and they were shunned by the society for taking up reforms. Yet both husband and wife persevered and they started many more schools for students from the Mahar and Mang communities, then considered as untouchables. Jyotiba, as he came to be known, encouraged Savitribai to run a clinic for women, and they also cared for women who had faced harassment and assault. Jyotiba rose beyond the line of caste, creed, gender, and religion to serve humanity. In the process, he also empowered his wife and thousands of others to transform the society. So, when we talk about couple goals, look at this couple. This couple lived at a time and space where women's rights were unheard of at that point in time in the society, in that context. But this was a man who saw the potential in his wife, which his wife herself didn't know. This is interesting, right? When you spend so much time with someone, you know more about that person than that person knowing about themselves. This is true even in my case. Like when I wanted to start up something new, I didn't know I had it in me to start up something new. It was my husband who had to tell me that, hey, this is what you're good at. I think you will be happy doing this. Till then, there is a self-doubt, there is, lack of confidence. But when there is somebody by your side standing up for you and saying, I'll take the fall for you, that is where the confidence comes from, right? When we are rooted in that confidence, both of us grow hand in hand. There is no jealousy. How can she grow better than me? How can she overshadow me? That is not there, because genuine desire for each other to grow. That is what is love. Not just a Facebook post or an Instagram post, but something more than that. So couple goals of where I want the other person to reach. I am dreaming for the other also. And I'm dreaming for myself along with the other. So that is what was very special about this Indian couple. And he provided her something that she didn't even know she wanted. It's so beautiful, right? It was not like she wanted it and she worded it and he did it. But with his support, she went on to do amazing things which she didn't even know she could. So look at the kind of influence a husband can have in a wife's life. Not just a wife's life, through this national development, a nation's progress, right? So a social goal for a couple. We can think about having a social goal together, right? We as husband and wife. Yes. Moving on. A few other husbands who played a great role in their wife's life. This is Julia and Paul Child. So Julia Child was actually, she met Paul Child during the Second World War, around that time. And during that time, housewives wouldn't have even imagined rights for themselves. Those kind of times that were around 1960s is when they got married. And they moved to the States. At that time, Paul's family, Paul is a complete foodie and his entire family was into food. Okay, but Julia grew up in a household where they had a chef. So she hadn't even thought about cooking. Like she hasn't even seen her mother cook or her chef cook. She was such a person. Many of us can connect with Julia. Yes. So this was the time when she moved back to the States with her husband. She decided to start exploring cooking. When she started doing that, she was appreciated by Paul and she started realizing she was good at it. So that is when Paul started encouraging her. And in fact, it is told like she is one of the most famous, influential women leaders of the States of US and so many parts of the world. And this is her famous cook show called The French Chef. In fact, she didn't know anything about French food till her husband took her to France just to taste the food there so that she can start exploring that variety. Okay, so in her book called The French Chef, this is what is written as a credit to Paul. So Paul Child, the man who's always there, porter, dishwasher, official photographer, mushroom dicer, onion chopper, editor, fish illustrator, manager, taster, idea man, resident poet, and husband. So husband comes in the end actually. So here this has effortlessly, like he's been part of her success all the way. But usually what happens, these husbands are in the background, foreground, the world sees the woman and says, what a great achievement. As a woman, she has come through so many challenges and all that. But the person who is facing the challenges and taking you through is the husband. So have you done that for your wife? If not, think about doing it. I think the most satisfying feeling you will get out of that, right? So one more example, this amazing scientist couple. So one the wife is actually the student of the husband. But as they started working together, the husband proposed saying these lines: "It would be a beautiful thing, a thing I dare not hope, if we could spend our life near each other, hypnotized by our dreams. Your patriotic dream, our humanitarian dream, and our scientific dream." And this couple went on to win the Nobel Prize. Yes, they are Pierre Curie and Marie Curie, right? So imagine the role that a husband can play in a wife's life, and together how far they can go. So it's a effect of synergy, right? Like Anand first said, it is griha medam. It's an yajna. Yajna should happen only with a selfless spirit. So when selflessness brings us both together, then what can we not achieve, right? So here comes our next story, together on the path of realization. Swami Ramakrishna Paramamsa is an exalted guru of contemporary India. At the age of 5, a young girl named Sharada Mani Devi was engaged to Sri Ramakrishna. However, in her teens, Sharada Devi came to Sri Ramakrishna's house at Dakshineshwar, and they were married only then. The master took up the duty of instructing his young wife, and this included everything from housekeeping to the knowledge of Brahman. He taught her how to trim a lamp, how to behave towards people according to their different temperaments, how to conduct herself before visitors, and so on. He instructed her in the mysteries of spiritual life, prayer, meditation, japa, deep contemplation, and samadhi. The first lesson that Sharda Devi received was God is everybody's beloved, just as the moon is dear to every child. Everyone has the same right to pray to him. Out of his grace, he reveals himself to all who call upon him. You too will see him if you but pray to him. Sri Ramakrishna was a great devotee of Mother Kali. It is said that on an occasion when Sri Ramakrishna had arranged for a special puja of Kali Ma, he placed on the same pedestal Sharada Devi and worshipped her. He saw in his wife the same goddess whom he worshipped every day. Sri Ramakrishna's relationship with Sharada Devi shows how the husband and wife are not just partners in a domestic life, but can also be spiritual companions together on the path of realization. Beautiful, right? So we saw the previous set of couples who had a couple goal of national progress, social progress. Here it is spiritual progress. Because the first thing we started with was Hindu view of marriage, right? Where it is said one of the main aims of marriage is to hand in hand help us grow. Grow how? Not just in the path of dharma and artha, but beyond it, to grow spiritually, to realize Brahman. Because here he's taught her how to, right from it is told in the stories that he taught her how to cut vegetables. Such a small girl cutting vegetables, serving, and all the way to who is Brahman. So imagine his role in her life, right? So such great husbands this land of Bharat has seen, and the world has seen too. So it is our pride to walk on this path. With that, I hand over to Anant for a series of questions that we will be asking Swamiji. Yes, Anant, can you take over?
Sure. Thank you, Radha. So Swamiji, we've received a lot of questions, and here are some questions that have been compiled from the ones we've received. And we chose these questions because the answers to these questions are spun every which way. Very mischievous narratives have come out due to this. People are forever in some sort of a confusion. So I'm just going to present these questions before you and request you to take your time to go through them. Both the questions that we've picked are going to be asked together. Why did Sri Rama put Sita Mata through the ordeal of Agni Pariksha? And the second question is, why should we regard Lord Rama as a Maryada Purushottama when he failed to stand up for his own wife and exiled her? Over to you, Swami.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Whoever has asked this question, congratulations. It's a very important question that we discuss. Before I get into the answer, am I audible clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
Sundar, Anant, okay, yeah,
Yes.
Thank you. We have different roles we play. So every man or a woman, just imagine the roles we play in our life. Let's take, for example, husband. To wife, he's an husband. To a sister, a brother. To his mother, a son. You understand? It goes like that. So each individual, we all have different roles we play. And these are very beautifully defined roles which we have. And in all roles what we take, we must give our best. That's the most beautiful way of living life. Whichever role we have taken up, let's say you're a friend, you're a husband, you're a wife, you're a son, daughter, student, teacher, a citizen of a nation, in every role which we play, we must be able to give our best. That is very, very important, because by giving our best, we live that role fully. Please remember, in life, when you live something so well, you would not like to repeat it again. You're done with it. That way, even the vasanas with which we have come, the deep innate vasanas, what we have, the desires, or our own, the inner calling, what we have come with, everything will get exhausted. When we live here, that is very important that we exhaust the vasanas with which we have come. And these roles are beautiful field for us to exhaust that vasana. So in each relationship, as a duty, commitment, we give our best. And now from this standpoint, you need to see Lord Ram. Lord Ram was just not an husband. He was also an ideal son. He was also an ideal brother. There are many incidents where his role with different people have shown so beautifully. So when he played the role of an ideal husband, when Sita was kidnapped, he was in tears, went around in tears. And it was Jatayu who told him what actually happened, who kidnapped her, but not sure which direction he went. And then Shabari advised Ram, saying, go meet Sugriv, he may help you. And then meeting Sugriv, imagine, to bring back Sita, he has to raise an army to cross the high seas, make a bridge and cross the high seas. This is the role there as a husband he was playing, and it shows how ideal that is. And what are the difficulties? And he took everything with him, went, brought back Sita. And this is where you see him as an ideal husband. Now, when he brought back Sita, your second question is your first question is that, why did he check on her? What is the need for Ram to check on Sita? For what? Questioning her chastity. And this has been a topic for all the while, that he asked her to get into Agni Pariksha, was this right, etc. Now, please understand, when we read Ramayana, we must keep Valmiki's Ramayana as the authentic book. I repeat, when we understand Ramayana, it should be Valmiki's Ramayana as the pramana, as the foundation, as the basis for references and verification. That is number one. And if the later authors who have also come to glorify Lord Ram or write Ramayana, we should understand if it is in line with what Valmiki said. If it is in line with what Valmiki said, we accept, saying, yes, the poet has a liberty to express, but it is in line with what Valmiki said, because Ramayana is itihasa. It has happened. And Valmiki has depicted it so beautifully through poetry. So the later poets who came, and if once they have written Ramayana, it should be in line with what Valmiki said. If it is not in line with what Valmiki said, then that we have to understand a person has taken extra liberty, but it is not itihasa. So that is very, very important. So in Valmiki Ramayana, the original, Rama never asked Sita for Agni Pariksha. He never asked. Agni Pariksha happened, but Rama never asked Sita to get into the fire. Rama questions Sita, saying, you have come almost staying a year with Ravana. How do I know you? This question is very important for us. Why did Rama ask this question? Please understand. When Sita was in the forest, and that after such a long time, almost 13 years, that she asked for one small thing like, get me that golden deer. And Ram understood, this is the first thing the lady is asking, I have to get it for her. And he went. When he went and he shot the deer, Maricha changed his voice. Maricha was the deer, changed his voice and yelled, calling the names of Lakshmana and Sita and asking for help. So when Sita heard that Ram is screaming for Lakshman and wanting help, she immediately told Lakshman, you go. Go, Rama needs your help. You go to Ram now, go. Lakshman was very clear, even before Ram went. Lakshman was very clear. Lakshman said, this is not a deer, it's a demon, and my brother is too powerful. No demon can attack. He was trying to tell these things to Sita. Naturally, we have to understand, when something which is extremely dear to you is threatened, the mind, the intellect is dumbfounded. The intellect doesn't function because the anxiety at that point has raised up to that level where anger comes up and we are disconnected to our own memory. And that is what happened to Sita. She got disconnected because the anxiety, and she loved Ram so dearly, and there was something dangerous to him. So she lost it completely and she uttered few things, which was not fine. Definitely Sita, who saw Lakshman as her own son, would never utter some certain things, but at that time of a disturbed mind, she says that. So she questions Lakshman saying, I am suspecting your intention. Do you have a design on me? Are you designing to take me? And therefore you don't want to go to Ram's help. These words from Sita hit Lakshman very badly. Till then, Lakshman was very clear. When Sita uttered this, he could not. So he left immediately and he walked away telling Sita that don't step out of your hut where you stay. Don't even step out. And he walked away in search. And when Ram found Lakshman, coming first thing Ram asked, why did you leave Sita alone? Lakshman could not answer. How could he answer? Sita is suspecting my motive on her, for her, that I'm designing for her. I have a personal design on her. So he could not say that. He was quiet. He put his head down. Ram understood that Lakshman went through a very, very strong humiliation. Now, after this, they are meeting again in Lanka. Imagine they never met, nor did each, Lakshman never met Sita, Ram never met Sita. They are meeting for the first time. Ram is also an ideal brother. So he just questioned what it must be. He knew what Lakshman went through. Please understand, Sita was wedded to Ram and she accompanied to the forest. Lakshman came voluntarily, saying, my brother, I will serve him, left everything and came, left his wife and advised her to take care of the Sumitra, Kausalya, etc. And he said, I will take care of these two. This is a very odd situation. And he moved with Ram to the forest, willing to live 14 years. Ram, as a brother, also has a role. He understood the pain what Lakshman had. So when they were meeting at that point of time, the first thing Ram asked Sita was, how do I know you're clean? Just like she questioned Lakshman. This is the karma which happened. When Ram uttered this, he did not even say, because you asked Lakshman, he just uttered. Sita understood that there was one mistake she made in that anxious state of mind. So she looks at Lakshman. Please remember, read Valmiki Ramayana. She looks at Lakshman and says, Lakshman, light a fire. Lakshman, light a fire. Lakshman was stunned, saying, how can he do this? He looks at Ram. Ram nods. Okay. And Lakshman lights the fire and Sita enters. This is the original text. So she enters there this way. So here you understand the husband could form an army, cross the high seas to get back his woman. And this question, what he asked her, is not insulting Sita, rather that hurt which Ram carried all those months together because Lakshman was hurt. And Lakshman was, that was something really hard for Lakshman to take. So that was the karma issue. It sorted out there. They all know there was no issue there at all. Now Ram, Sita and Lakshman, and what happened when one enters into the fire? We generally get burnt. When Sita entered into the fire, Agni Deva came out running saying, I am getting burnt. Imagine the beautiful way of describing. When Sita jumped into the fire, fire jumps out and saying, no, she is such a pure tapaswin. I am getting burnt. I can't take her heat. And he jumps out. And then Rama says, come, let's go back. And they all come back together. Now everything was fine. Now Ram so far played the role of a brother, of a husband, of a son. All these roles he has played. Student with Vishwamitra, student with Vasishta, ideal friend with Vibhishana, Sugriva. When they got friends with Rama, they got kingdom. They got Ram and the kingdom. Vibhishan got the kingdom. He made him the king. He left Lanka. He did not take the land. He left Lanka to a Dharmatma to rule. And Sugriv got his family back and he got his kingdom. This way, Ram, with whomsoever Ram connected, he played an ideal role. And now he comes and he becomes a king. Now, when you become a king, kingdom comes first, not the family. Because he has played that role already. For 14, 15 years, Ram has played the role of a husband, brother, friend, son, every role he has played. Now, he is playing the role of a king. The duties change. When it is kingdom, praja is the first priority. It's not easy. Kingdom is not a joy you take. Kingdom is a responsibility. Ram showed us. It is a responsibility that one takes up. It's not power. It's not honor that way. How you execute that responsibility brings honor. So that is a huge responsibility where the interest should be first on the subject. The country, the people, then comes everybody else, and last the king himself. So now he's playing the role of an ideal king. When a citizen questions, please remember, it is not the dhobi who just questioned him, the man who washes clothes. It's not him who just questioned Sita's integrity. For a dhobi to question, there must have been a kind of a consensus among the people in Ayodhya. There must be people talking. How do we know Sita? How do we know she is pure? She lived with Ravan all these days. People were talking. Now Sita is a queen. And on the queen, the fingers are pointed out. Now Ram, who is playing the role of a king, had to take a call. As an ideal king, he gave the country, the opinion of the people, more importance there and said, no fingers should be pointed at the queen. And this can be a bad example. Therefore, he calls Lakshman and says, take Sita close by, nearby to Valmiki's ashram, because she also expressed a desire to stay in the forest because Sita was also an intelligent Kshatriya woman. She would have also known through her maids through her network that the public in Ayodhya have different opinions on her character. She was also tired and she was pregnant, and she told Ram saying, it will be nice if we go back to the forest. So he told Lakshman saying, take her and leave her near Valmiki's ashram, and the ashramites will find her. And they found her. And Valmiki was such a wonderful guardian for Sita, took care of her so well, and brought up her children. Love and Kush, their guru, Love and Kush's guru was Valmiki. So he made sure that when he was a king, the priority was a king. There you can't bring your family. Kingdom comes first. See, now I have a very different question to you. I just want you all to think about this particular question. When Dasharath told Ram, you have to go to the forest, because Kaikeyi, I unfortunately gave this boon to Kaikeyi, you need to go to the forest, and Kaikeyi's son Bharat will rule. I have a question for you all to think. If Bharat had a character like Duryodhana, if Bharat was like Duryodhana, absolutely negative, would Ram listen to his father, give up the kingdom and walk to the forest, hand over a kingdom to somebody who is like a Duryodhana and walk out? The Ram I adore, the Ram I have read, revered, and he is that Maryada Purusha, would have never done that. There the father is not important, the nation is important. He would have taken a different stand. But Bharat was such a noble person. If you read Ramayana, Valmiki, and also the later poets, when they describe Bharat, each one, when Bharat comes and meets the boatmen, the forest, the Guha, when he meets Guhan, Guhan looks at Bharat, first suspicious. Then when he gets to know Bharat, Guhan's natural utterances, Bharat is 100 times more better than Ram. And everywhere else, Bharadwaj also says the same thing. Finally, Kausalya will tell Bharat. Kausalya will say, Bharat, crores of Rama we have to put for one Bharat. Now, this is the comparison. So when the kingdom was to be given, Rama walked to the forest because the guy who the kingdom went to was a nobler man, and Ram knew it so well. So Ram's interest was as a king, but he played the role as a son because the other person who was taking the kingdom was also absolutely fine. So he fulfilled the role of a son. Then he fulfilled the role of a brother, guided Lakshman through. And then he fulfilled the role of a husband. He played all the roles. When it came to kingdom, he did not choose his family, he chose the kingdom. That is the role each one has to play. You know, like you always give up the lower for the higher. And kingdom was higher. And Ram has to choose. Why couldn't Ram walk away with Sita to the forest? Then Ram would never be an ideal king. He would have chosen a selfish interest there. So Ram decided, here is a chance, I have to do these things. And he took it up and played the role as a king, showing to the world, when you take up that kind of a leadership, your team is more important than you, your country is more important than you, your self-interest comes in the end. Please remember, when you look at it as a duty and responsibility, you will understand Ram well. If our minds interpret Ram as a man who was, like seeking power and throne, then you will never understand Ram. Ram has to be understood as an ideal man who showed his responsibilities throughout. I think we are running out of time. We should stop here and we will continue tomorrow. Back to Sundar.
Thanks, Swamiji, for giving us the clarity on this challenging question.
Loudly, can't hear.
Thanks, Swamiji, for giving us the clarity on this challenging question, which always prevails in most of our minds. Thanks, Radha and Anand, for your wonderful book reading, giving us views on the need for amplifying the importance of 7 steps entering into ashrama of marriage, where couples mutually commit to the 7 principles and rules. And Rama, the Avatara Purusha, giving respect to Sita's interest and wish. A nice comic, not to assume, even in section of a movie, or a Netflix spending mutual time. The using words, the importance of communication. And also Julia supporting Paul Child, supported by Paul Child as a French chef. I think COVID has given some of us the opportunity to do that as well. And thanks for giving us the view on couple goal, hand in hand support to grow, not just the mutual love, but also the social goal and the spiritual goal. Thanks for that. And thanks to all of the participants today, the attendees today. We will again connect back tomorrow for our next session on love and respect to my family. Thank you. Pranav, can we have the...
Can we end with prayer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om, everybody.
Thank you. Pranav, can you put the slide, please?
Madhuram